Excuse me, this is first-class transit for people who can actually afford premium service. You clearly don't understand how public transportation funding works. People like you are why the system is failing. The economic attack came from NYC Transit Authority Supervisor Derek Collins as he publicly humiliated the black woman in front of a packed rush-hour subway car. He gestured dismissively at her basic work clothes with financial superiority, completely unaware he was insulting Marcus Metro, the CEO, whose $94.6 billion transportation empire built every tunnel, owned every train, and employed every worker in the entire NYC transit system. Let me take you back to 8:15 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in Manhattan, where assumptions about class and contribution would cost someone their career and revolutionize an entire transportation system forever. Marcus Metro had built her empire 1 mile of track at a time. At 49, she was the founder and CEO of Metro Global Systems, a comprehensive transportation conglomerate that had revolutionized urban mobility across North America. Her company owned and operated public transportation networks in 47 major cities, built 73% of all subway infrastructure constructed in the past 2 decades, and managed transit systems that moved 23 million people daily. Her empire generated $94.6 billion in annual revenue and employed over 127,000 people across the continent. From the New York City subway system to the San Francisco BART, from the Washington, D.C. Metro to the Toronto TTC, Marcus controlled the infrastructure that enabled millions of people to live, work, and thrive in urban environments. But her vision extended far beyond profit margins and ridership statistics. Marcus had transformed public transportation from a necessary inconvenience into a premium urban service that competed with private vehicles for convenience, comfort, and reliability. Her companies had invested $18.7 billion in upgrading aging transit infrastructure, implemented cutting-edge technology that reduced delays by 67%, and created accessibility programs that made public transportation truly accessible to all citizens. Most importantly, she had pioneered the concept of premium public transit, first-class subway cars and bus services that generated additional revenue to subsidize free and reduced-fare transportation for low-income residents. Her model had proven that excellent public transportation could be both profitable and socially equitable. Today's ride on the NYC subway wasn't planned. Marcus had been attending a morning meeting with the United Nations Transportation Council about sustainable urban mobility when her private car broke down. Rather than call for another vehicle, she decided to take the subway, a perfect opportunity for an unannounced quality assessment of the system her company had spent $12 billion upgrading over the past 5 years. She dressed for her business meeting, a simple navy blazer, black slacks, and comfortable walking shoes suitable for navigating subway platforms. She carried a basic messenger bag and wore minimal jewelry, professional but understated attire that wouldn't draw attention during her commute. To anyone watching, she looked like one of millions of working professionals using public transportation to navigate the city. Perhaps someone who had chosen transit over expensive parking and traffic congestion. It was the perfect test of whether the NYC Transit Authority was maintaining the standards of service and respect that Metro Global required from all partner systems. The New York City subway system was Marcus's crown jewel, a 472-station network that Metro Global had transformed from a deteriorating relic into a world-class transportation system. Over 5 years, her company had invested $12 billion in infrastructure upgrades, installed state-of-the-art signaling systems, and introduced premium service cars that featured comfortable seating, Wi-Fi, climate control, and reduced crowding. The premium cars, marked with distinctive blue and silver striping, were available to passengers who paid an additional $3 surcharge. The revenue generated from premium service funded reduced fares for seniors, students, and low-income riders, creating a self-sustaining model of transportation equity. Marcus boarded the 6 train at Union Square during the heart of rush hour, immediately noticing the stark contrast between the premium and standard cars. The premium section featured leather seating, digital displays showing real-time system information, and about half the passenger density of regular cars. The added space and amenities attracted business professionals, tourists, and anyone willing to pay extra for a more comfortable commute. As she approached the premium car entrance, Marcus observed the usual mix of passengers: finance executives checking their phones, healthcare workers heading to morning shifts, and tourists appreciating the upgraded experience. The atmosphere was notably calmer and more comfortable than the packed standard cars. She presented her Metro card, a premium monthly pass that she maintained specifically for system testing, and stepped into the car. Within seconds, she noticed Derek Collins, the Transit Authority supervisor, watching her with obvious suspicion and disapproval. Derek, 42, had worked for the MTA for 18 years and had been promoted to supervisor when Metro Global took over system operations. He prided himself on maintaining the quality standards of premium service, which, in his interpretation, meant ensuring that only the right kind of passengers accessed the upgraded cars.
"Excuse me," Derek said, approaching Marcus with the confidence of someone accustomed to exercising authority over subway passengers. "Can I see your fare documentation?" Marcus reached into her bag and presented her premium monthly Metro card, which clearly displayed her valid payment status and premium service access. Derek examined the card with obvious skepticism, as if looking for reasons to question its validity. "This says premium monthly, but I need to verify that you understand the premium service requirements." "I'm sorry, what requirements?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious about what policies Derek thought existed. "Premium transit is designed for professionals who contribute to the city's tax base and understand how public transportation funding works," Derek explained, his tone becoming more condescending. "It's not just about paying the fare, it's about respecting the investment that working taxpayers have made in improving the system." The implication was clear. Derek had decided that Marcus didn't look like someone who belonged in premium service, regardless of her valid payment. "I have a valid premium pass," Marcus said calmly. "Is there a specific issue with my documentation?" Derek's frustration was growing. "Look, I'm trying to be helpful here. The premium cars are designed for business professionals, tourists, and people who genuinely appreciate and support quality public transportation. They're not intended for people," he gestured vaguely at Marcus's appearance. "For people who look like me?" Marcus asked quietly. "For people who clearly don't understand how public transportation funding works. People like you are why the system is failing." The brutal economic attack fell like a bomb in the premium subway car. Several passengers looked shocked by Derek's public humiliation of a paying customer. Others seemed uncomfortable with the class-based assumptions and discriminatory language being used by an MTA official. Among the witnesses was Jennifer Kim, a healthcare administrator who had been commuting to her hospital job. She'd watched the entire interaction and was appalled by Derek's behavior toward a fellow passenger who had done nothing wrong. "Excuse me," Jennifer said, standing up from her seat. "I watched this whole conversation, and this woman showed you a valid premium pass. She has every right to be here, and your behavior is completely inappropriate." Derek turned his attention to Jennifer, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "Ma'am, I'm responsible for maintaining the quality and standards of premium transit service. This involves ensuring that passengers understand and respect the investment that taxpayers have made." "She showed you a valid pass," Jennifer replied firmly. "That's the only requirement. You're making assumptions about her based on her appearance, and that's discrimination." Other passengers began murmuring their agreement. Michael Rodriguez, a financial advisor who had been reading his morning briefings, walked over to join the conversation. "I ride this train every day, and I've never seen an MTA employee treat a paying passenger this way. She has the same premium pass that I have. There's no justification for this treatment." Marcus appreciated the support from fellow passengers, but she knew the real issue was systemic. This wasn't just one employee having a bad day. This was the result of policies and attitudes that allowed transit workers to gatekeep public services based on their personal biases about who deserved quality transportation. Marcus reached into her messenger bag and pulled out her phone, her movements calm and deliberate despite the anger building inside her. Derek and the gathering passengers watched her, probably expecting her to call someone to complain or perhaps document the incident for a later complaint. Instead, Marcus dialed a number she knew by heart. "Sarah, it's Marcus. I need you to conference in legal and MTA leadership immediately. We have a serious discrimination situation on the 6 train premium car." Sarah Chen, her chief of staff for 12 years, didn't hesitate. "Connecting now. Legal and Transit Authority executives will be on the line in 60 seconds. Marcus held the phone so her voice would carry clearly in the subway car. "Thank you. And Sarah, I need you to pull our operational agreements with the MTA, specifically the customer service standards and anti-discrimination policies." "Already pulling them," Sarah replied. "Marcus, are you safe?" "I'm safe. But this system isn't operating according to Metro Global's standards." Derek and the other passengers had gone very quiet, watching Marcus with growing confusion and unease. The tone and content of her phone call suggested she wasn't just an ordinary passenger calling to complain about poor service. "Ma'am," Derek said, stepping closer with forced politeness, "if there's been a misunderstanding, we can discuss it when you exit the train." Marcus looked at him calmly. "The misunderstanding, Mr. Collins, is that you've just told me I don't understand public transportation funding while standing in a subway car that my company built. You've made assumptions about my tax contributions while riding on infrastructure that my business invested $12 billion to upgrade. And you've done it while wearing a uniform that represents a transit authority that operates under contract to Metro Global Systems." "Metro Global Systems?" Derek asked, his voice uncertain. "That's right. The company that owns and operates this entire subway system." Marcus answered the phone and immediately put it on speaker. "Good morning, this is Marcus Metro, CEO of Metro Global Systems, calling from Car 3 of the southbound 6 train. I need to report a discrimination incident involving an MTA supervisor." The response was immediate and professional. "This is David Kim, General Counsel for Metro Global Systems. We're reporting this call. Can you describe the incident?" "I boarded this premium car with a valid fare and was publicly humiliated, told I don't understand public transportation funding, and informed that people like me are why the system is failing. This occurred despite presenting proper premium service documentation." "And who was the MTA employee involved?" David asked. Marcus looked directly at Derek, whose face had gone completely white. "Derek Collins, Transit Authority Supervisor." The effect was immediate and devastating. Derek began to understand the magnitude of what had just occurred. The other passengers in the car recognized they were witnessing something extraordinary. "Mr. Collins," David's voice came through the speaker, "you are suspended from all Metro Global Systems operations effective immediately, pending a full investigation. Ms. Metro, do you need immediate assistance?" "Not at this time," Marcus replied, her voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. "But I want a complete review of MTA customer service protocols and immediate retraining of all personnel on Metro Global's anti-discrimination policies." "Understood," David said. "MTA leadership is being contacted now."
Derek finally found his voice. "Ms. Metro, I had no idea who you were." "Exactly. You had no idea who I was, so you decided to lecture me about public transportation funding. You judged me by my appearance and concluded I didn't deserve respectful service. You made assumptions about my tax contributions and civic engagement based on how I looked."
As the reality of the situation sank in, Derek began to understand not just who Marcus was, but what her company controlled. Metro Global Systems wasn't just another transportation contractor. It was the innovative force that had transformed urban mobility across North America. The premium car where Derek had just humiliated Marcus, it had been designed and implemented by Metro Global as part of their equity-focused transportation model. The comfortable seating, digital displays, and climate control systems, all developed and installed by Marcus's companies as part of the $12 billion NYC subway modernization project. The reduced fare programs that helped low-income residents afford public transportation, they were funded entirely by the revenue generated from premium services that Derek was trying to gatekeep based on his personal biases. But the scope went far beyond the NYC subway. Metro Global controlled transportation networks in 47 major cities, employed 127,000 people, and moved 23 million passengers daily. When commuters in San Francisco rode BART, when tourists used the Washington, D.C. Metro, when students took buses in Toronto, they were using systems that Marcus had designed, funded, and managed. "Mr. Collins," Marcus continued, "do you understand what Metro Global Systems does?" Derek shook his head, still processing the revelation and its implications for his career. "We own and operate public transportation networks in 47 cities. We've invested $47 billion in upgrading aging transit infrastructure. We employ 127,000 people, including everyone who works on this subway system. And we've pioneered transportation equity programs that make premium service profitable while keeping basic transportation affordable for everyone." She gestured around the premium car. "This car exists because Metro Global invested our own money in creating better public transportation. The premium fare you were gatekeeping, it subsidizes free and reduced price rides for seniors, students, and low-income residents." By the time the train reached Grand Central Station, the NYC subway system had been transformed into the scene of a corporate crisis that threatened the operational contract between the MTA and Metro Global Systems. Within 40 minutes of Marcus's phone call, 3 executives from Metro Global had arrived at Grand Central, along with 2 representatives from the MTA's customer service department. Derek Collins had been escorted from the subway system and was meeting with corporate investigators at MTA headquarters, trying to comprehend how his discriminatory behavior had potentially jeopardized the largest public transportation contract in North America. Marcus found herself in the station manager's office at Grand Central, getting a briefing on how the incident would be handled and what immediate changes would be implemented across the entire system. "Ms. Metro," said Lisa Rodriguez, Metro Global's VP of Operations, "we are profoundly sorry for what happened today. Mr. Collins's behavior was completely contrary to our values and the standards we require from all transit authority personnel." "Lisa," Marcus replied, "this wasn't an isolated incident. This was the result of discriminatory attitudes and policies that have been allowed to develop unchecked. I need to understand how widespread this problem is across our transit systems." The investigation that followed revealed troubling patterns across multiple Metro Global-operated systems. Customer satisfaction surveys showed significant disparities in how passengers were treated based on their appearance, race, and perceived economic status. Premium service gatekeeping was occurring in several cities, with transit workers making subjective judgments about who deserved access to upgraded services. Most concerning of all,
There had been 47 formal complaints about discrimination across Metro Global systems in the past year. Most had been filed with local transit authorities and marked as resolved without any meaningful investigation or corrective action. How did these patterns go undetected? Marcus asked. The systems were meeting their performance metrics, Lisa replied, uncomfortably. When ridership, revenue, and on-time performance look good, corporate oversight tends to focus on operational efficiency rather than customer experience equity. Marcus leaned back in her chair. So we were moving people efficiently and profitably, and that was enough? We failed in our responsibility to ensure that excellent transportation meant excellent treatment for all passengers, Lisa admitted. News of the incident spread quickly through the public transportation and urban planning communities. Within hours, industry publications were reporting on the discrimination incident and Metro Global's response. Social media amplified the story, with many people sharing their own experiences of being judged or excluded on public transportation based on appearance or perceived economic status. But the real impact was felt in transit systems across North America. If Metro Global Systems, a company that controlled such a significant portion of urban transportation infrastructure, was willing to take strong action against discrimination, other transit authorities needed to examine their own practices and staff behavior. Marcus used the attention to announce a comprehensive industry initiative. Metro Global would require all partner transit authorities to implement bias training for staff, establish passenger service standards that prohibited appearance-based discrimination, and submit regular reports on customer satisfaction across demographic groups. Public transportation is a fundamental right in urban society, Marcus said in a statement. We will not tolerate discrimination in any form, and we will use our position in the industry to ensure that excellence in transit service means excellence for all passengers, regardless of their background, appearance, or perceived economic status. The initiative sent shockwaves through the public transportation industry. Transit systems that wanted to continue partnering with Metro Global Systems, which included most major urban areas, had to meet new standards for equitable passenger service. Derek Collins never worked in public transportation again. His termination from the MTA was immediate, and word of the incident spread quickly through the industry's professional networks. But beyond the career consequences, the incident forced Derek to confront his own biases and assumptions about class, race, and who deserved quality public services. In the weeks that followed, he began to understand how his prejudices had not only hurt other people, but had cost him a career he had worked 18 years to build. He had let assumptions about economic status and social contribution override his professional training and basic principles of equal treatment. The woman he had publicly humiliated and lectured about public transportation funding controlled an empire worth $94.6 billion and had invested her own money in making transit systems more accessible and equitable for everyone. But more importantly, she was a citizen who deserved respectful service regardless of her wealth, status, or appearance. Derek eventually found work in a different field, but he never forgot the lesson of that Tuesday morning, that public services belong to all citizens equally, and no government employee has the right to gatekeep access based on personal biases. 6 months later, the NYC subway system had become a model for equitable public transportation. Under new management protocols and with comprehensive staff training, the system served all passengers with equal respect and courtesy, regardless of their appearance, race, or perceived economic status. Marcus made it a point to ride the subway regularly, always unannounced and always dressed in simple work attire. Each time, she was treated with the professional courtesy that should be standard for every passenger. More importantly, she observed respectful service extended to all riders, regardless of their demographics or apparent social status. The changes weren't limited to New York. Across the Metro Global network, transit systems had implemented new training programs and passenger service standards. Mystery writers regularly tested systems to ensure compliance with anti-discrimination policies. The American Public Transportation Association invited Marcus to speak at their annual conference about building inclusive transit communities. She used that platform to share a simple message. Every person who uses public transportation is contributing to sustainable urban mobility. Every passenger deserves respectful service, and every assumption transit workers make based on appearance costs the entire system credibility and community support. For Marcus, the incident represented both a professional challenge and a personal reminder of the work still needed to build truly equitable transportation systems. She had built a global empire and controlled billions in transit infrastructure, but none of that had protected her from being publicly humiliated based on assumptions about her economic status and social contribution. The experience strengthened her resolve to use her position and resources to create systematic change. Metro Global established a $150 million foundation focused on transportation equity, providing free transit passes to low-income families and funding accessibility improvements for disabled passengers. Marcus also began speaking more publicly about her experiences as a Black woman in business, sharing the challenges she had faced and the strategies that had helped her build her empire. Her story inspired other entrepreneurs and public service professionals to examine their own assumptions about who belonged in leadership roles and quality service environments. The changes at Metro Global and throughout the public transportation industry didn't stay contained within transit systems. Other public services began adopting similar policies, recognizing that equitable service wasn't just morally right, it was essential for maintaining public support and funding. Government agencies implemented bias training for staff. Public facilities examined their treatment practices across demographic groups. Even private companies that served diverse populations began reviewing how they treated customers from different backgrounds. Marcus's simple act of riding the subway while Black had exposed systemic problems that extended far beyond public transportation. The response demonstrated that change was possible when people with power and influence demanded it consistently and systematically. 2 years later, Marcus kept a photo from that day on her office desk, not of the confrontation, but of the Metro Global Transformation Ceremony, where new passenger service standards were formally implemented across all transit systems. The image showed diverse transit workers from all backgrounds working together to serve passengers with dignity and respect. It reminded her every day that business success and social responsibility weren't competing priorities, but complementary goals that strengthened each other and built stronger communities. The public transportation industry had learned that excellence meant excellent treatment for all passengers. The lesson, delivered one discriminatory encounter at a time, had changed everything.
Marcus still rode public transportation regularly, still dressed in simple work attire, still used transit systems where employees sometimes made assumptions about her economic status or social contribution. But now, when those assumptions proved wrong, she had an industry that stood as proof of what happened when you treated every passenger with respect regardless of their appearance. The transportation industry learned that dignity wasn't a premium service, it was standard equipment. And that lesson, delivered one ride at a time, continued to transform not just transit systems, but the urban communities they served. The impact of Marcus's experience extended beyond immediate policy changes to influence the fundamental philosophy of urban transportation.
Cities across North America began to understand that public transit wasn't just about moving people from point A to point B. It was about creating inclusive, equitable communities where everyone could participate in urban economic and social life. The premium service model that had once been used to justify discrimination was redesigned to explicitly support equity. Revenue from upgraded services consistently funded free transportation for those who needed it most, creating a sustainable model where quality improvements benefited everyone. Urban planners began consulting with Metro Global not just on infrastructure design, but on creating transportation systems that actively supported social justice and community development. The company's approach, combining business excellence with social responsibility, became the gold standard for public-private partnerships in urban development. If this story moved you, remember that every interaction on public transportation is an opportunity to choose inclusion over exclusion. Every passenger deserves respect, and every assumption we make about who belongs in public spaces costs our entire community. Because sometimes the most important journey isn't to a destination, it's towards justice. And that's a ride that benefits everyone.